Oh shit, we have dedicated intros again. Oh fuck, I completely forgot. Tune in and drop out, live from the satellite of dreams, beaming directly into your eardrums. Our hosts talk about the games that persist in the hearts and minds of gamers everywhere. We have our hosts, the heroic and dashing and super brogan, and the dark, daring, and brimming with brooding Murph. Today we are going to be talking about Batman, and it is just us. Murph, how you been doing, man?
Brimming. Brimming as a adjective. He's brimming.
Brimming with broodness. I was being spontaneous, and it did not work.
Brimming with broodness is my favorite Nirvana album. I will say that.
Not in utero. Brimming with broodness, yeah, you know.
Yeah. I think that's really where Cobb Cobain really peaked.
I don't know. I was out of the grunge era, and I was much more into the Sulfur era. What do you think about Sulfur?
Sulfur. Sulfur is a game I've been playing. In the previous episode, I had talked about Hole, and I didn't set up the framing device for that properly, where last Steam sale, I finally said to myself, I don't know what an extraction shooter is, and I'm afraid to ask. So I went in their extraction shooter tag and picked up a few that seemed appealing to me. Ones that are current year, give or take, if you consider early access. And Hole was one of them, and Sulfur is the other, and the third I'll get to in a later episode. Sulfur, I like a lot. I'm not really sure, all these three games are very different in terms of, gameplay, so I'm not 1,000% if they fall under the extraction shooter genre. At the very least, they capture an idea of you go into a level, you get swag, you get out, and if you die, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And Sulfur follows that trend. The thing that's going to stick out about Sulfur is its art style. It has this very cartoony, yet sort of macabre art style. It reminds me a little bit of, Invader Zim, but with much softer pastel colors and thinner outlines.
Or perhaps maybe an edgier Adventure Time or something.
That too. The setup is that you are a priest chasing down a witch that killed you and your entire congregation, and you are currently trapped in this limbo realm called Sulfur. And you have your home base, which is your burned down church, and your congregation are around, and they're sort of your merchants and allies that you go into between runs. Yeah. And you go into various runs, such as goblin caves, a town of heretics, sewers, a hedge maze, etc., and you start off with this sort of Walter P30 handgun, and as you kill enemies, the guns will level up, but they don't change their stats. Instead, they get sort of slots that you can equip oils to and enchantments. Yeah. And oils will do stat buffs, usually with a buff and a debuff. You deal 20% more damage, but reloading takes 50% longer. And then enchantments are sort of straight on, elemental effects. The gun shoots lava now, or the gun will charm enemies, or the gun is a railgun now. And once you apply these bonuses, you can't take them off. And if you die while you have that gun, you lose that gun completely. So you're going through levels, picking up sort of an arsenal, and you're getting very, particular with it. And that's what I like about it, is that you form a real attachment with these guns you find. Even if they start shitty, because they may be the only ones you have after a few runs, you use them enough and slap on enough, like, damage-boosting oils, they can become real powerful. I found this double-barrel shotgun. It only has 2 rounds in the chamber, but I slapped on so many damage-boosting oils, like ones that disable aiming completely. I gave it an enchantment where it deals 30 extra damage each successive shot, but if it doesn't kill the enemy, I swap places with them. And it's generally just one-shotting everything I come across. It's great. But I'm terrified to go into later levels that I've only just unlocked with it, because I'm like, well, maybe there's something in that level that's going to surprise me, and I die with it, and I lose that shotgun.
Yeah.
You know?
I think... Compared to Whole, how do you feel about it?
Compared to Whole, I like the shooting in this better. I can't really describe what it is. It's probably in the animations. The enemies are all 2D sprites, but when you kill them, they, like, get a hole punched in them where you shot them. This is a very, like, meaty game. This is a very, like, violent game. When you kill someone with a grenade, organs go everywhere. And you can pick up those organs for a crafting mechanic I'll get to. I think the actual core difficulty of Sulfur comes from the reload animations take a while. Like, a while.
Yeah.
That, like, starting handgun you have, it's sort of like the reload for, the rifle in Resident Evil 4, you know? Where it's like, you gotta, like, pack in the bullets, and then Leon has to, like, snap the little stick off, or whatever that is. It just takes a while. Really, what the game wants to teach you is something that Captain Price taught to us many years ago in Modern Warfare. It's always faster to switch to your sidearm than to reload.
Yeah.
And that's why you have 2 equip slots. Technically, you can have as many guns in a level as you want. You just kind of have to pause and swap them out in your inventory. It has a grid-based inventory system. And some of the better guns take up a lot of space. And what you're also picking up throughout the level is consumables, such as things that will slow time temporarily, grenades, there's a lot of different grenades, and food. Food is how you heal. It's the Skyrim school of medicine, where just shoving a bunch of hot dogs in your gullet will heal you, but it's not instantaneous. The food will say, like, this will heal you 30 points across 10 seconds. Or maybe it will say, this will heal you 30 points across 30 seconds. And you're picking up sort of ingredients, and at stoves and cauldrons, you can combine those in a crafting grid to make different meals that heal you more. And I like the food crafting at first, because it feels intuitive at first, but then it gets a little, Like, for instance, you can combine a loaf of bread with any piece of meat, and you get a French hot dog, which is just like the hot dog is, like, shoved into the loaf of bread. You can make cereal out of wheat, but you can't combine cereal with milk, and that confused me. You know?
Yeah. That's
Or
okay.
you find cocoa powder, and I haven't found what you combine cocoa powder with, because it's not the milk, and it's definitely not the water, God forbid. So I don't know how to make hot cocoa. You know?
Interesting. Very interesting. Do you see this game having long legs?
I do. I have put in about 23 hours into it right now. This is honestly, like, if you count early access games that had a big update this year, it's kind of tracking on, like, my game of the year, sort of.
Damn.
Just because I've had a lot of fun with it, especially discovering the different, like, ways you can really ratchet your guns in different and odd ways. Because one of the rarer drops is you can change the caliber of the gun. So that double-barreled shotgun I mentioned, another way I buffed it is I converted it from using buckshot to 60mm rounds.
Okay.
And you can go on the Sulfur subreddit and see some crazy builds people have done. But it all comes at the cost of that reload speed, like, some of the guns just are really tedious with it. There's, like, a gun that runs on AA batteries, and it has a 400 clip. and you reload it manually for each round. So you pull the trigger for 3 seconds, you are now reloading for 5, you know?
That's rough. That is rough.
But you can... I like being handed something like that with the tools I'm given around it, because I'm thinking, how would I make this work if I needed to? You know, if push came to shove and I needed to head into a level to just gather supplies, what would I plop on this to make it good? And that's where a lot of the experimentation comes from, and I think it helps that the combat does hold up like it does. It's a very punchy game. It's a very shooty game. It feels good to get good in this game. Mm-hmm. But that's my game of the year. Brogan, what you say you want to talk about the game of the decade?
More like it's a game called Decade. Murph, this is an independent game. It is kind of like a visual novel. I'm going to tell you the plot. And imagine that most of it is just visual diagrams and reading as gameplay. But the plot is you are in the distant fucking future. And everything is shit. It's toxic outside. You cannot go outside or else you will die. You and 3 other children are the last remaining survivors of the human race. Y'all are in the teenage years. One's like, I think maybe 10, 12, 14, and then you. I don't remember how old you are. But you have a time machine. And the gimmick of the game and like the whole conceit is that you are the captain pretty much. And you're the leader. And you choose which of the 3, people you send into the time machine. And you can send them, let's say, 200 years back to see what's going on. The dilemma is that when they go, number one, you have no idea how far back you need to go. So the first thing you need to do is collect information. So when you send them 200 years back, they're not trying to save the world immediately. They're trying to figure out how we even got to that point. But then the other problem is they will age 10 years, a full decade. So when they come back, they're going to be in their 20s. And then if you have to send that same person again, they're going to be in their 30s. And if you fuck up, they're going to hit middle age and they're going to be like, what are we doing here? So there's a little bit of a pressure there, which is really nice. But also there's a sort of cause and effect relationship. You can completely change the timeline into other nightmare scenarios where, the water is toxic, but people are still alive, or there's a surveillance state. And you get to see how the world got to be that way. And the brick by brick moments are like, you're going to send Kate to go back in time to where the philosophy was first coming up. And you're going to infiltrate the bohemian clubs with this poem or something like that. You can interchange, or you can have them kill a major political leader. Like, you can have them do multiple things, and then when they come back, they'll talk to you about their experiences. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, I understand why you did what you did, or they'll be like, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed my time there more than here. I had a family, I was in love, and now it's all gone. And stuff like that is pretty like, oh shit. I think it's very well done in terms of an experimental story and an experimental game. I would highly recommend it because I'm a sucker for time travel in this way.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of a visual novel type game doing a time travel story where you're actually like dynamically changing the past to that degree and to that extent.
Yeah.
Being able to go back like 250 years. So when you give your characters a mission, is there like chance for failure? Is there like, do you make choices within that? Or is it like always, it will succeed?
It's more like if you know what you're doing, it will happen. But you have to know what the things are and how they mean. Otherwise, you've wasted the 10 years of that person.
Okay.
The fail state is you making a wrong guess as to what you are supposed to do. Because sometimes I will say I think a dilemma of the game is if you came up with a process that didn't make sense, like I guess a way to say it is, let's say that the toxic rain clouds were made by a machine. There's multiple ways that your brain as a player would be like, okay, I'll send them back in time to disrupt the machine, or am I killing the scientist, or am I doing this? And there's an answer. I think there's like one or two answers that would be accessible for that, but it's not all of the possibilities you could think of. So you could get a bit frustrated, but it's also a very fast game because it's just reading. It's all text. So like once you're like, oh yeah, I fucked that one up, you can kind of just blow through it and experiment with other things until a better run next time.
Okay, so how long are these runs typically taking?
I mean, not long. I would say less than 30 minutes. This game is this game is pretty short. You would understand the game almost immediately after the first 10 minutes, and then you would be interested in the diversions or like what can happen after that. They none would last longer than probably 30 minutes probably.
Huh, and I'm looking at the art style. I really like that we're getting sort of like I don't know what you call this aesthetic, but like this burned out, like, doomer-ass aesthetic in a lot of games.
Yes. Yeah, and it also tries to do this weird thing. So one of the I guess sticking points that I've definitely seen people complain about is there's no glossary. There's no like definition of terms. This is a game that's heavy into terms. Because, like, 500 years ago, there was this philosophy called blank. And, like, you'll have to write that down. Otherwise, you're going to be like, uh-oh. And, like, there's times where there will be an era where there's multiple philosophies sort of battling each other out. And that's obviously an era where, like, if you encourage one, that one will take over the timeline, et cetera, et cetera. But that means that you have to understand what the things are. And, like, the game is a bit obtuse in communicating it beyond the straight text. Like, you'll just get a sentence of, like, oh, they like to, they believe in might versus right. And that's pretty much all that's said. And you can obviously make you can make inferences based on that, but it's also a little hard at points. I'd say the writing is still strong, but it's much more strong in like the brick by brick elements, if that makes sense. And then they have like a weird HUD visual look where you can change them, and that's I think the developers like idea to push the different philosophies is each one is tied to one of the HUD visuals. I don't know. It's a weird game. It's a cheap game, and it's experimental, so I would recommend people check it out.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right. This is making my brain light up. I may pick this up next sale. Although it looks like it just came out, so maybe it won't really have that deep a cut. $10, that's fine. I guess what I'm wondering is this sort of, with everything you're saying, is this kind of in the vein of like I forget the developer's name, but something kind of like a Her story, where you're being sort of like scattershot, obviously much more in like a visual novel format where you can like get to end states, and what you're looking for is sort of like the golden path of keywords and choices you need to pick.
Yes, but there's no golden path. You're sort of left aimless. Because I think a big part of the game thematically is, number one, your character, like the player character, is not necessarily a good person. You kind of realize that when you look at your dialogue options. You're kind of just sending people to live their lives and completely change things, but also, like, nothing's going to be good enough. Like, pretty much all the endings are bad endings, and it's sort of a pick your poison type thing. And you see, I think it's a very cynical game in that way. But sometimes you need a little bit of cynicism. I don't think we're in a happy... I'm not wearing a happy face right now, so, yeah.
Well, maybe you can turn that frown upside down just by grabbing the 2 points of your smile and pulling them up. No, this doesn't work. A 2-point museum
So
is a game I've been playing.
You played 2 Point Campus. You're like, I'm done with
I'm
done with the college life. I was, I was a dean. It's whatever.
I'm ready to apply myself in the real world of jobs. I'm ready to use that degree.
Yes.
In the museum. And this game this game came out this year, and it just had a DLC. 2 Point Museum, I am unfortunately not as hot on as Campus. For people that didn't hear me talk about Campus, these games are developed by the remnants of Bullfrog, who made those original Tycoon games, Roller Coaster Tycoon. Not Roller Coaster Tycoon, I think it was just called Roller Coaster. And then they had Hospital. And this is a museum simulator. They've done a hospital, 2 Point, they've done a campus, and this is a museum. So they're getting a little strange with it, because I can't say I've ever seen a museum tycoon game before. And it has the very British humor to everything. It still has the diegetic DJs and the Aardman type animation to it. The gameplay loop is just really painfully boring at times, and kind of grindy, which is weird. At Campus, my main problem was, once you had everything set up and you started the term, the game was just kind of a fishbowl, and you watched your students and teachers go around. There wasn't really, fires to put out.
Yeah.
I think this game goes kind of in the opposite direction. It's not really fires, it's just, there is always something to do, and that's not always to the game's benefit, I feel. Because sometimes what the player wants to do is just, indulge and decorate, or kill a little time watching the funny little animations,
Yes.
The core mechanic to this is that you have, 6 museum themes. It's the past, like paleontology, archaeology, aquatic, haunted, science, space, and with the DLC, fantasy.
Okay.
And so whereas 2 Point Campus had a lot of maps, and you were chasing those 3 stars, just completing objectives, and each map was kind of based around a particular type of class. Like, this is a sports college, so you're going to be making cheese ball fields, and making gyms and stuff, and it was really focused like that. Here you only have 1 map for each museum theme, and there's a bit of crossover between the themes that I'll get into, but in each map, you hire experts in the chosen field, and then you send them on expeditions. So you go to this sort of corkboard map, and you pick spaces you want them to go investigate and bring back exhibits. So for the archaeology museum, you're going to be sending them to, a tar pit, and they'll come back with part of a skeleton that you'll put up. And this takes, real time to pass, measured in in-game days. And once you have an exhibit, you can place it, and it will have a quality ranking. So you can send experts back to that place and try to get a better quality version of that exhibit. And you may ask, well, what if I don't want 2 of the same exhibit? Well, then once you unlock the analysis room, that's where you plonk it. You plonk it in the analysis room, and it's deconstructed to progress your knowledge of that particular field. And my problem with that is the knowledge meter is where all the decorations lie. And I mentioned before, the tripping point for a lot of Tycoon games for me is how liberally they let players decorate out the gate. Starting this game, your exhibits are gonna look like shit, because you can't put out some, cool looking, tiki torches and glowing amber and dinosaur animatronics and what have you,
Sure.
to make everything look cool and alive. And also because you're dependent on waiting for expeditions to come back for exhibits, when you start a map, you may only have, like, one thing to show off. And that feels kind of lame, you know?
Yeah.
And so, as you're in a lot of spots on the maps, only have, like, 1 to 2 exhibits, really. You'll be lucky if you unlock a new plot, and it has 4 exhibits that you can bring back. But that also kind of means if you're looking to upgrade a particular exhibit, you're doing a 1 in 4 chance that you get a higher quality one of the one you have, and not just something that you don't need.
Did you stick to a theme?
Yeah, I stuck to a theme to a degree. Because the catch with the fantasy DLC is the fantasy DLC doesn't get its own museum.
Oh.
So you kind of have to incorporate it to an existing one. And the tricky part with that, and this is cute, this is fun, is that your fantasy experts are like RPG classes. So you hire a fantasy expert and they're a fighter, or they're a rogue, or they're a mage. And sending them out to get exhibits is like sending them out on a quest. So you need an even balance of stats to bring back the good shit. So if you're investing in the fantasy theme, you have to hire a lot of fantasy experts, you know?
Yes.
So there are some crossover themes, like in the map for, like, archaeology, there's one where you need to have a space expert to investigate, a space expert and a ancient history expert, because this particular plot is bringing back, like, ancient alien shit, like a monolith.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So there are sub-themes within the categories, like in the archaeology, there's dinosaur bones, there's Ice Age exhibits, and there's, like, ancient caveman technology, where they have, like, whack-a-mole. And that's fun, because that allows you to delineate your museum to a degree. I think just my core issue really comes back to that decoration and aesthetics thing. I didn't really hit my stride with this game until I had a lot unlocked and a lot of exhibits, and I could, like, delete the museum, start from the ground up, and really, like, make this how I want. And also, just, like, I guess a lot of the themes don't really do it for me. Like, I thought I would like the supernatural theme, but they do the supernatural theme like a zoo, where you are making exhibits, habitats for various ghosts for your guests to gawk at.
This doesn't make sense for a museum. You're telling me all this, I'm like, how's this a museum?
Exactly. Well, the aquatic theme is an aquarium. So I guess if you're in the 2-point sauce, the appeal here, it's kind of like Mario Sports Mix.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Where it's like, oh, it's not just 2-point museum, it's 2-point aquarium, 2-point Ghostbusters, that sort of thing. It's just, it's kind of like Jack of all trades, master of none. No single theme really feels strong, and I really don't like the science theme, because, 1, why is there science and space in the same game? 2, the science theme has a crafting mechanic where when you send guys out onto the map, it's to gather resources that your science experts then turn into, like, inventions that are shown off in the museum. And you upgrade the inventions by making a bunch of them. And that's how you get more pristine quality inventions. But they tend to blow up, like, pretty frequently. Which is kind of like the putting out fires part of the game. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm playing the game wrong, or maybe 2-point campus was just that easy. But the staff in this game feel dumb as rocks. Like, I will watch janitors frequently walk past empty vending machines, full trash cans, litter on the floor, and not do anything. And I'm like, where are you going? Do you need to use the bathroom? And it's like, no, I have full needs. I'm available for any task. And it's like, do the tasks I've assigned you, you know? So, yeah. Like, I am hitting a stride with it 20 hours in. So, take anything I'm saying with a grain of salt. And I am enjoying it now. Now that I'm able to have all the systems available to me and all the decorations I want available to me, I'm really able to make some nice looking museums, and I'm feeling like proud of what I'm making.
Yeah. That's good.
You know who belongs in a museum?
Me.
A fighting game character with a high-low fireball mix with different speeds.
Oh my
for the
God,
fireballs.
Murph. Sagat
This
came
is
out.
archaic design, anti-fun. Why?
Oh, he's
what?
here.
And he's what? He's 17 million frames plus on block.
Oh yes, and
Get
he's
outta
huge.
here.
The biggest hitbox you've ever seen, enough to make anyone blush. Oh, is that big?
But he shrinks in Jamie's critical art.
I'm sure you kind of have to. Yeah, I've been playing Sagat, and the thing about Sagat is he is not like the old days, but he is definitely like modified for Street Fighter 6. But what's cool about him is that he's a little bit more saucy than Street Fighter 6 is typically doing. And I feel like Capcom's really found a really nice stride with the DLCs. I think they kind of cook with the DLCs like a lot. Like I really like all of them. And Sagat is in the same line. His combos are just so much damage. He's got a lot of plus frames. He's a little bit more of a... So, alright, I'm just going to get it out of the way. The fireballs are slightly worse. This is a devastating fact. I hate it.
This is a close combat Sagat.
No! I didn't say that. It's
Okay.
It's that, and I think honestly, if there is like one complaint, it is literally, I would make low tiger shot better. So the thing is he only has one low tiger shot now. It used to be that, light, medium, heavy punch was all the high tiger shots, and those would determine the speed. And then the same for kicks, but for low. But now they've sort of mixed it around, I think for multiple reasons. I think, number one, they didn't want a heavy zoner Sagat. I don't think this game likes zoners they don't like zoning being the primary focus unless you're Guile. And even then, like, Guile's... They've tried to like remove Fireball Wars as like a primary part of it. I mean, it makes sense. It's got parry. It's one of those things. Anyways, but now there's only one low tiger shot, and the low tiger shot is really, really punishable. Like, it is actively a bad move. So I have a problem with that. But that being said, his normals are so good, and he still has projectiles. The thing about, a Shoto, and I'm not saying Sagat's a Shoto, he just has like a lot of the elements of one, but the issue is he's slow and more of a zoner. But like, the thing is you've got all the tools, you really can't complain. I'd rather have a DP than no DP. So, like, it doesn't matter if it's bad. I'll take it. It's pizza, basically. And that being said, he's also not mindless. I feel like you can play, like, mindless neutral with him. But, like, a lot of his combo routes are, like, hard. And I'm really bad at combos. Thankfully, I think the execution is a little easy. It's one of those scenarios where no matter what, I can squeeze out... like 3k damage if I burn a little meter or whatever. I'm like, okay, not so bad. I like this. Would I main him? I don't think I'll main him over Alex, but I think I will main him as of right now.
You're feeling it. You're feeling him out because you also
it's fling season. I broke up with E Honda. Me and him are done, and now I'm with Sagat. Do I see me and Sagat getting married in a year? No, I don't. But I do see me having a nice little time. Go to Christmas with him.
I don't think you could tie Sagat down. He's big as shit. Like,
he's fucking huge. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So do you think maybe the ennui there is because you got really into CVS2 and playing Sagat there?
No,
And
not
now,
necessarily, because I feel like I mean, I've also been playing Super Turbo with Sagat as well. It's not so much, oh, I'm down on it. I mean, this is a popular opinion among a lot of players, and like you can look at Bonchan. A good example is Bonchan, where he is the number one motherfucking Sagat fan. Like, he sleeps with his wife and a Sagat doll, and I'm not kidding.
yeah.
So, like, when you watch his streams, it feels like he's fucking amazing, but he's not playing the character he used to play. Versus Punk, who, the thing about Punk is that he can play Street Fighter 6 so well. You can see that Punk is playing Street Fighter 6 Sagat, and it's a completely different beast. And it's not that I'm, being wistful about it. It's more like what he is now is, I think, one of the most interesting characters, and that's why I'll play him. But also, it's also not the thing I'm most in love with.
I can get that. Like, there is always that struggle, right, with a legacy fighting game like this, where it's like, oh, we're bringing back your old fave, but we're gonna reinvent them for a new era, right? Or reinvent them so that they're more in line with how this particular entry plays, and that can be a bit of a grab bag, right? Like, has Sagat had a lot of variants over the years, or has he always been like low-high fireball man?
Well, game plan wise, he's always been the same game plan.
Okay.
So,
like, he hasn't changed archetypes.
No. There'd be some cases where the thing is there are cases where he would be heavy damage, and he's always heavy damage. But like Street Fighter 4 Sagat, it's not just playing lame. I think maybe when I say like zoner, you think fully playing lame. He is most comfortable far away, but Sagat has the ability to do combos that will drain a health bar. And that is the part of the character that they kept fully. And I guess that's interesting, but like, I don't know. I also like how fair his stuff is. I like his version of the Jinrai kick more. It's called the Tiger Nexus, where you sort of have like multiple options for mix-up. You can sort of like, do an overhead, or you can like launch him in the air for more combos. He can do a lot. And I also like the fact that, I'm just gushing about him now, is that you can get a lot off of an anti-air. And like his fucking heavy kick, man, just, wow, what a button. He's got so many good buttons, Murph. How can I be mad when his buttons are so good?
Yeah, I did play, I did the rental with Sagat, because I'm trying to get back to Street Fighter 6. I think the issue is now I've played so much Tekken and Strive that I'm kind of having to relearn, and I said to myself, well, if I'm relearning, maybe I'll finally learn them their classic controls. And it's still just not clicking, and I'm not sure why. Like, I think it may come down to, I don't like 6 buttons. I think that may be it.
I mean, hey.
I feel like I'm leaving a lot on the table, and my brain is just going to only focus on like 4 of them. I
am curious. One of the things I didn't say earlier, and it's probably a primary reason why he only has one version of Low Tiger Shot other than EX, is Modern. I'd be curious to see the concessions made for Sagat on Modern, and I'd be curious how good he is on Modern.
So I can answer that to a degree. How Tiger Shot works is actually he has unique modern input. Well, unique modern input specific to him. Regular Tiger Shot is like medium Tiger Shot is down and hitting your special button. Low Tiger Shot is holding down back and hitting that, and then the heavy Tiger Shot is holding down forward.
Ah, wow. Okay. You'd feel like there'd be a lot of input errors in that. See, that sounds complicated.
you ebb them in there. You get them on modern Sagat, and then they're like, wow, sometimes it's good to plan out where my left thumb is going on this joystick
But
or
he's got
D-pad.
so many good buttons, Murph. Why would I give up 3 of them? I want all
Because
of them.
you can have them all. I'm just saying, for me, I would forget most of them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And I would be playing it, and someone would be like, "Why aren't you utilizing crouching light kick into medium tiger knee?" And I'd look at them, and my lip would treble, and my eyes would water, and I'd say, "What?"
Also, those cowards made Tiger Knee a non-TK input. They've done that before. It's not the first time, but.
Okay, I've been wondering about this because I've heard about this infamous Tiger Knee input, and I don't. And when I booted it up, and I was like, it's just a quarter circle.
No, that's not.
I felt like I was
what the
missing
TK
something.
Input. The TK input, Murph, is doing that quarter circle in the air. So the actual reason why it's called why it's considered a hard input is because you want to do it as low to the ground as possible. So what the input is you go from 12 o'clock on a clock all the way to 2 o'clock. You want to jump just before the button hits, basically. You want it to register that you've done the input, but you're in the air. And then you tiger knee from the ground, basically.
Oh, that is fucked up.
Yeah. And on top of that, Sagat in Street Fighter 4, he could Kara cancel, and Kara, dear listener, to Kara cancel means to cancel out a move for another, mostly to get the properties of the previous move. So for instance, if Sagat did a tiger knee, just a tiger knee by itself, he would have only moved a little bit across the screen. But you can do it with another move, Kara cancel it, and then TK, and he would go across the screen because he borrowed the momentum from another move. So Sagat's always tricky like that. He's a sneaky boy.
He's a mighty Cyclops.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Who is next on the? Is it Alex? Is next up in the season 3?
The next is Sea Viper, Crimson Viper, who is also basically Sea Viper's big thing is she's incredibly technical. The only game she's been in, she's been in 2 technically. She's been in Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3. She's meant to be a technically demanding character, lots of crazy feint cancels, and feint cancels aren't a big thing in Street Fighter. That's an SNK thing. And it's just a lot of animation cancels into each other and weird ass combos. And I don't think that's all gonna be in this version of the game. I don't think she's gonna be crazy in Street Fighter 6, but I do bet that they're gonna keep the main legacy is the fact that she's hard to play. So I bet they will keep that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a brief moment earlier this year where I was a fool and I was like, maybe I'll come back to Street Fighter 6 and I'll main Elena. And that didn't fall through.
Elena's fun. Elena, I don't hate Elena. I think she's really good. She's super fun to fight against because she's all footsies. But I don't like playing her. So it's eh.
Oh. Well, all right. Should we move to that there old dang old variety minute?
Yes. This week's Variety Minute, Murph, is Metroidvanias, specifically modern ones. I don't know the specific year we would put it, but I think just the advent of everyone just doing the genre beyond Nintendo is, I think, the definition here. I don't.
So what's the watershed for that then? Because you say modern, I think HD era.
Yeah, I think HD era has. I mean, there were games before that imitated, but I do think the HD era sort of broke open for multiple reasons. It's not just like budget for other things. I think number one, independent developers started getting inspired and doing their own thing. And a lot of independent games, if they were ambitious and made by a person, they would imitate certain things of Metroid. Cave Story, which is not a Metroidvania but was considered to be back in the day, had some elements of Metroid in there, and that was made by a guy in a garage. And, you look at like Axiom Verge, that was a big one, or even like Xbox Live Arcade stuff like Shadow Complex. And then at a certain point in time, it's like, what if every independent developer was like, let's make a Metroidvania? And I think that's because, and I've read a lot of discourse on the genre, Murph. And I think the actual ultimate problem with the genre is not that it's not fitting or that it doesn't describe something. It's that it is mostly based on taste.
Okay, break that down. So the genre of Metroidvania is based on taste.
Well, it's a very subjective genre, which clearly has some staples, but largely functions as a what I like and what I don't. I think, and I love Brian, but I think Brian's a really good example of like a Metroidvania needs to be non-linear, needs to do this, and needs to do that. And it's like, I don't necessarily think these things. I think secretly it is a label for a fake genre, and it's being dictated by taste. Because, like...
Okay, I see.
Does that make sense? It doesn't serve much function. Like, Metroid Fusion is not a non-linear experience. You still jump around and stuff. It's just seamless. And a problem, which we'll get into later with Batman, is if you make it large enough, it just becomes open world.
That's what I was going to bring up, because when I was looking up, like, games to talk about in this Variety Minute, there were some crazy-ass, like, things people were putting forward on, like, fucking Reddit and GamerRanks, like, asking for what are the best, like, 3D-era Metroidvanias. And multiple people were saying, like, Dark Souls. And that's not right.
Oh, like, but see, that's the thing, Murph. You want to know the real difference between Metroid and everything fucking else? Is that it's the same fucking game as Doom or Legend of Zelda, but Legend of Zelda, half the time, instead of bombing a wall, you have to use a key. And in Doom, you just use a key or press the E key.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I always think of a Metroidvania as being, like, equipment-based, in a way. Like, you've unlocked a mechanic, now you can do a thing, rather than being a series of keys for doors. This always, like, comes back to my, like, I brought this up to a friend once, and he asked me the famous question of, are Ocarina of Time post-Zelda's Metroidvanias, by my definition? And I had to think about that, and I still am thinking about that.
Because it is taste-based, and you're like, in your head, you're like, it doesn't seem right. It's because it's mostly arbitrary. I think one of the other things that's very telling regarding the genre is, as we'll get into with Batman, it doesn't describe the brick-and-brick gameplay, right? It is describing structure. It is describing how the level is made and how progression is done. Not the fact that you're jumping on tiles or you're beating somebody up, which can be two very, very different things.
I guess, it's one of those things where if a dev tells me, like, they are actively describing the game as a Metroidvania, I'll be like, that's a Metroidvania. If you presented me a game, like, description ungiven, and told me to name a genre, I feel like I would lean on Metroidvania maybe as, like, a crutch as comparison.
Yeah.
In the same way I would say something has a Zelda-like progression, if it matched that. Like, I saw people keep bringing up, like, Darksiders as a Metroidvania. But in the zeitgeist, I always thought Darksiders was compared to Zelda.
It was, yeah. I would agree. It's a very arbitrary... it's an arbitrary genre because, like, if you also, like, look at Sakamoto, or even like look at the Castlevania side of things. If you look at Igarashi, they'll say Zelda, right? Igarashi was like, I wasn't inspired by Metroid when I was making Symphony of the Night. I was inspired by Zelda. It's just like a slight thing. If the only mechanical difference is that you get an ability instead of a key. And let me tell you, a bad Metroidvania, sometimes an ability is only a key. That's the only time I ever use it, right? It doesn't matter, you know? That being said, I do think there's some really good standouts. I think, like, I really like Blasphemous and Hollow Knight. We always talk about those, but I'm also a huge fan of Bloodstained. I do think there is something really important to the Castlevania strand that's kind of easily forgotten, because a lot of people just jump to Metroid because, like, oh my god, yeah, Super Metroid was so good. But I feel like there is a lot to be said for Symphony of the Night's approach in incorporating RPG mechanics and the loot systems.
Yeah, I always took it as, and this is not a dunk on Zelda, not Zelda, Metroid. This is not a dunk on Metroid, but I always took the Castlevania element as good combat. You know, that's its contributing factor.
A little bit, I could definitely see that. No, it's also go ahead.
Where the Metroid, because again, I'm working in this framework of it's about equipment, and the more equipment you have, the more things you can do. And the Metroid aspect is your equipment is for exploration and secret finding, and the Vania element is your equipment is now you can exploit this weakness in an enemy that you couldn't before, or something like that.
There's a little bit of that. It's not always super elemental. I think it's just got a lot of RPG elements, but I would also say, I would agree with that Symphony of the Night or the Igarashi stuff focuses more on combat. I think it is also a case of just seeing how loot is progressed. So, like, in Metroid, if I saw a secret and I went into, like, a secret room, what would you get most of the time? There's only two main answers.
Missiles.
Missiles or health, right? Like a sub-tank, maybe, if you're really lucky. So the opposite of that is Symphony of the Night, which it has a little bit more of like an Elden Ring approach, where like you go down a secret hallway, and at the end of the hallway of monsters is a sword with a different moveset, or an actual power, or a boss that leads to a power, or like, you know, unique gear that allows you to go through spikes or see something secret or whatever. There's like a lot of different things, but it's usually like there a lot more varied items is, I guess, the way to say it in the sentence. Whereas like Metroid has actually a pretty limited scale of items. There's like probably 10 things tops differently in the whole game, similar to a Zelda grab bag. Whereas like Castlevania, there is an inventory. You open it up, the left hand has an inventory, the right hand has an inventory, your chest has an inventory, etc., etc.
Do you think the reason why a lot of these 3D games like Darksiders were compared to Zelda more than like being labeled a Metroidvania is because Zelda kind of got there first with doing this in 3D, and Metroidvania is something we associate more as a 2D genre?
For sure. And I think, again, this goes back to if the 3D world is big enough, it's an open world.
Yeah, I get that. I think the tricky part with doing something like this in 3D is that 3D environments need to be inherently like bigger in order to feel natural, and therefore that's a lot more time the player's spending like holding forward on the thumbstick, right, to move around, whereas something like a not a Metroid Prime, a Super Metroid can suggest space with like the depth of field and environment, but the room's only one screen long, you know?
Yeah.
And therefore it becomes much more about the traversal element, which, if we're talking like the HD era as modern, I think we were still kind of fucking up with making good traversal for these kinds of games.
So I think inherently an actual platforming brick by brick difference as well is you look at a Super Metroid and a Mario, and the main difference is when you fall, you just land further down than where you want to go in a Metroid, right? So I feel like they started giving up on movement, especially since like Samus, by definition and by who she is not meant to move very well. At least when you pick up the game at first.
Yeah.
So like I feel like platforming, it was thrown to the wayside, and then it's like, what replaces it? Exploration and like that adventure game logic or RPG mechanics?
Yeah. Because it's not the same, like, going by your open world analogy. And again, I guess this really turned into more of, like, needling down of, like, what does a Metroidvania mean? But, like, for me, if it was strictly, like, level gating was how the environment is blocked off. It's not about the equipment you have. It's about whether or not you can kill this guy that's blocking your route. Again, to me, that wouldn't feel, like, I wouldn't feel okay labeling that a Metroidvania. Would you?
No. Well, I don't know, man. Do you think Batman's a Metroidvania?
I would classify it as such. Mainly coming down to, again, because it is that equipment-based progression. And it does have, like, the RPG elements, but mainly it's like, I've picked up this new gizmo. This new gizmo works on this kind of environmental object. Hey, I saw a bunch of environmental object, like, round about the start of the game. Before I move on to the next area, I'm gonna go back and deal with those. Yeah. You know?
And it's a lot of interconnectivity and going back and revisiting and exploring.
And I think in the modern era, in the realm of achievements, this is really where Metroidvanias become known for, like, the collectathon element, right? Where, like, you know, especially in Batman, the environmental object I mentioned at the start of the game, that's not gonna have, like, content behind it. It's gonna have a fucking Riddler trophy.
Yeah.
Which is probably true of a lot of games like Arkham Asylum, like Darkstalkers, the Tomb Raider reboot I saw people calling a Metroidvania. I'm kind of like if on that. Like, yeah, I could see it. But again, the environmental progression is finding collectibles.
All right, here's a question for you, Murph. Murph, I got something for you.
Okay.
Is BioShock a Metroidvania?
I feel like, in my heart of hearts, I'm going to say no. There are elements, but they are not followed through on.
Subjective the most you get labeling. That's all I gotta say.
Yes. The most you get is using the shock plasmid to power up some doors you find.
Or using the fire you just obtained to melt the ice because the thing froze.
Yes. But it's not like you come across a lot of other frozen areas in the game. When you do, they're like secret areas, right? It's not like there's just a bunch of ice everywhere all the time.
But it's used to gate progression.
I guess it comes... Well, then, okay, so where does immersive sim fall on this metric then? Because in immersive sims, the equipment you have, like, the player chooses their loadout, but they can still get through the level, like, in theory, even if they're, like, missing something like that, you know?
There are
like,
skips.
I wouldn't call...
I think there are times where, like, I don't know. I don't think you're necessarily obligated to always have the ability you need to for that moment. Again, in Metroid, you could skip some sections.
But you can, but is that in the player's, like, knowledge the first time they're playing? Right? Or is that, like, something fun they find out after the fact?
I don't think restricting the genre label to... you have to have this ability to get through, like you need this weapon in a Zelda dungeon. Like, I don't know. I don't think that it should be so... That's another element of Castlevania, where it's like there's a little bit of a wiggle room. As long as you're able to cross the door, that's all that matters. Now, most of the time, that just means your singular ability. But if you can vertically scale, it doesn't matter if you're the fucking bat or not.
Yeah. I guess that is something I've never really thought about in the Metroidvania v Zelda discussion in my brain, is that Zelda games and games aping them are very, like, grounded. And I don't mean that in terms of, like, themes or realism. I mean in that Link can't jump.
Yeah.
You know? But because Metroidvanias have their influence in side-scrollers, there's a lot of verticality in the design of the levels. And I think that shows up in 3D takes on the genre as well.
And like, you look at... We didn't talk about it a lot because I think we would have had Brendan talk for 45 minutes. But you could see an argument for Zelda 2 being an early entry into Metroidvania, right?
I said it was a better Castlevania 2 than a Zelda 2.
Yeah. Dang. All right, Murph, I think we've talked about this genre long enough. Gotham needs us. Oh my gosh. The Daydreamcast signal's in the sky.
The DDcast signal?
Yes.
Our game of the week is Batman Arkham Asylum. Released in 2009 from relatively new developer Rocksteady, Arkham Asylum was a bold new take on Batman gameplay. Rather than being based on any show or movie, Arkham Asylum takes place fully in an established Batman universe, but still getting the iconic voice cast from the animated series. The Joker lures Batman to Arkham, then immediately takes control by freeing the inmates and taking the staff hostage. Batman must liberate various wings one by one while upgrading his arsenal as the night grows longer and the Joker's plan reaches its climax with a coveted Titan formula. The game features 3 distinct modes of gameplay. Exploration, with Batman's detective vision to look for clues and structural weaknesses, Predator stealth challenges against goons with guns, and a free-flow combat system that I don't even really need to describe because it was so influential that games after the fact advertised themselves as having Arkham combat. With that all said, Brogan, how do we feel about Batman Arkham Asylum in the year 2025?
I have no idea your opinions, Murph, on this. However, I will say that I think this is... Actually, I know exactly what to say. This is my Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Okay.
You see where I'm cooking with this?
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the cook.
Where your opinion is the exact same. Where basically we deserve better. This is like a B, maybe like a B minus or a B plus depending on the day. It's really, really good, competent design with a competent story. A big thing to note is Paul Dini wrote. But also, I'm pretty sure Paul Dini wrote the fucking Rise of Sensu on the PS2. That's not necessarily the only thing. I think from the moment-to-moment gameplay, Rocksteady made a competent Batman game. And it turns out that that's all anybody ever wanted when they bought a Batman game. And thus, they became super successful. However, that's just, I think, really more of a critique on, first of all, the 3D brawler genre, which it was either hardcore character action by that point, like a Devil May Cry or a Ninja Gaiden with extensive mechanics, or you were still living in the fucking, dinosaur Stone Age with mechanics barely better than Final Fight in a 3D game. So, like, the Batman combat system was really welcome there, but also just, like, interesting stealth. Batman Begins tried to do stealth, but it was all scripted scenes. Like, all of it was just, like, Are you doing the scripted moment that was intended for you? Yeah, whereas this is much more emergent. I think a little too stale and predictable, but you could also say that of the combat. But again, it's good. It's all good.
So my story with this game is, I wasn't a athletic kid in the elementary school days. And so people were like, you don't play sports, that means you're a nerd. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm a nerd. I'll pursue nerd interests, like reading comic books, So I read some Batman, and I really liked Batman. And then The Dark Knight came out, and I became a Batwanker. Then IGN started, like, hyping up this game that was coming out called Batman Arkham Asylum. And they did just so much fucking coverage. Like, 10 villains that should show up in Arkham Asylum, and, things like that. And I was, like, really drunk on the promotional campaign for this game. But, issue, I only had a Wii.
Oh, no.
I brought this up many times. Never had a PS3, never had a 360. I had a Wii. So I really wanted this new next-gen game. And I covertly, using subliminal messages and subterfuge, convinced my father that our current Windows 2000 PC was out of date and we should upgrade. And while we're doing that, we should buy this cool new computer game called Batman Arkham Asylum. So he did, and I did get to play it. And I, like, it's hard to... The moment is imprinted in my mind, playing this game for the first time, because it wasn't just a property that I had grown to love. It wasn't just that, like, I was a Batman wanker. It was also, like, this was my first, like, next step, I guess, in the evolution of video games, going from Mario to a Batman that says hell.
Oh my gosh, huge.
And I played this game to hell and back. Like, I've beaten this game, like, maybe 10 times. And if you count all the times I did in, like, the Predator stealth mode challenges, that's even more. Like, to me, this is one of the iconic games of history. And it feels like it sometimes has to fight for that position because it's a licensed game and because the Arkham franchise got played out and because something makes you feel like Batman. But you go back and play and it's like, no, this fucking slaps.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call this a B. This to me is like S tier. This is one of the good ones.
Okay, maybe I'll rephrase it. I would agree with like an A. I don't think this is S tier, but this goes back to the Battlefront 2 thing of they haven't made a better Batman game. This is the best one.
So that is where we differ in our Arkham, because at the time, if you had asked me at the time, I would have said I like City more. But I think City just indulged me in the shit I wanted from a sequel to Arkham Asylum. And then you get Arkham Knight, which is is where I coined the term culmination type sequel, where it's like everything you ever wanted, it's not the best one. Coming back as a mature adult, I do see the nuances that make Asylum better. It's kind of like the delineation we make between, like, Sly 1 and Sly 2, right? Mm-hmm. Or Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, where, yes, the second one is objectively a more sanitized, commercial product, and it would be interesting to live in the timeline where the first entry got the proper sequel.
Yeah.
But I like that fucking commercial-ish shit sequel, so what are you gonna do?
No, and I mean, like, I said my opinion way back when, where it's like, this is a well-designed game. It's not the best Batman simulator. City and Night are better Batman simulators, but there is something nice to this game. To actually talk about it, I think this game has a really good atmosphere. This game does atmosphere better than any other Arkham game.
I will cop to that 100%. Like, it's so interesting that this game had the dark, like, gray and brown color palette of a lot of its contemporaries, but that shit pops in Asylum.
Yeah.
Like this is better, like, gothic art deco, I think, than BioShock.
Yeah.
Because it really lets you're like swimming through the atmosphere. It's so thick and heavy.
Well, it helps
the
that
moon
Batman's
looks
part
amazing.
of the architecture for so much of it. You get really intimately familiar. And this is one of the genius things about making it a Metroidvania is because Batman's somewhat stealthy, he's crawling around gargoyles. You're really getting a feel for every nook and cranny of a building.
Yes. And, like, man, if I was Batman and I was touring the asylum like this, I'd be like, you guys need more humane facilities. Like, really, what the fuck am I doing?
Oh my gosh. There's like entire cells with giant mountains of skulls on them. Oh my gosh.
Or they just have, like, a fucking wing where they toss all, like, the feral children, and they just, like, run around screaming, shaking the bars, and throwing their own feces, probably, right? Like...
We're not playing American McGee's Alice anymore.
No, fuck. Arkham Asylum versus American McGee's Alice.
That's a nightmare blunt rotation. No, okay, so... I wanted to go back to the combat real quick because what I like about the combat here, it is too easy. It is pretty like but it's still responsive, and I like how there's just enough jank to it to where in City and Night the combat got too refined. Where, like, I could just, like, push the button the moment I see an animation, and Batman just cancels it so cleanly. Whereas in this one, there's a chance that I might get the enemy might get a stray hit in. And the nice thing about combat in this is, yes, you feel like a god when you're, like, completely on a roll, just, like, mowing down bad guys. But the moment they, like, smack you, you're, like, back in it. You're like, wait 1 second. Oh, shit, I gotta press buttons again. And, like, you're out of it. And then your health bar might drain.
I think there's something, intentionally or not, where... Because, yes, this game is a power fantasy. Like, that's how I've always played the Arkham games, it's the power fantasy of being Batman. And the games lean into that. The enemies don't get stronger, they just get more numerous, right? So you're flipping around like these 50 dudes, taking them all out. And the moment a dude smacks you, it's not even that the power fantasy is shattered, because I still win in the end. It's like I'm standing over the pile of corpses, and I'm just thinking to myself, I got hit. That wasn't very Batman of me. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind that the combat's easy. I don't mind that I don't really die in this game, because I guess... in a weird way, it being easy is thematic? Does that check out?
No, I think this game could be harder, and it could be more varied than it is. That being said, it's ultimately fine. I wouldn't change this combat, like, very much. I would tinker with, like, maybe some values, or, like, introduce... I think what this game could really use is more enemy types, which the later games would do. This game just needs more variety in general. But, like, in terms of the basic stuff, it was successful for a reason. Sometimes you don't want combat that's incredibly complex and meaningful if you're trying to spin 3 other plates. This game is not only a brawler, it's also a stealth game, and it's meant to be a little bit of a Metroidvania exploration puzzle thing. Like, if it's doing that much, it doesn't need Devil May Cry combat.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see Batman get juggalies on a dude, you know? That would feel weird.
Sure. What did you think of the stealth in this game?
I love it. This is my favorite stealth in any video game because, again, it's that power fantasy. It's sitting on a gargoyle and looking out over your prey and, like, setting up the psychological dominoes of how you're going to take them out one by one. I remember, like, feeling frustrated when they introduced the suicide collars because I'm thinking to myself, no, don't alert them. I want to take them out with them never even knowing I was there. And, you know, as I've played more Arkham games, and, like, again, I cannot overstate how much I've only played the stealth challenges across all these games. I've come to appreciate the fact that, you know, there is, like, there's a game to this. It's not just you sneaking up on dudes and pressing, in my case, because I played with mouse and keyboard, pressing right click.
Well, what's interesting about this stealth is it's a case of, because you're in, the key difference between this and like a thief is Batman is supremely powerful. The only time I'm ever actually scared of a henchman is if one of them has a gun and I'm not about to, you know, murder them. I say murder, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Batman murder.
Yeah, Batman murder. Otherwise, like, I am immensely powerful, but there's still a nice power fantasy to be there because I'm the Predator, and that's fun. And then, like, oh, I gotta sink back in now. I gotta hide while there's a scramble. The bad guys are noticing the bodies. Oh my gosh, it's the freaking bat! And you're like just scurrying around, making your next thing. It's helpful because it's as hard as you want it to be. There is a way you could just, and sometimes I'll do it, it's just fucking walk up behind the dude and fucking silent attack him. Done. I'm gonna go back up. I'm gonna wait for the patrols to die down and do it all over again. It could be simple and it could just be easy and whatever, but it could be as creative as you want it to be with the explosive gel or the remote batarangs or a bunch of other things, or like the hook shot. There's ways where you can have fun and experiment with these stealth missions.
And I think much like I described with the combat, when I fuck up in the stealth, it feels awkward and raw, and I'm like, this isn't very Batman of me. I've really made a shambles of this. I'm gonna restart this whole thing. Because what you want, it's not like exactly like the cinematic gameplay. You want to feel that choreography. Yeah. Right? You want to feel like you are plotting something out and it is executing perfectly. You know, like, some of my, like, most fun is when you can, like, get two guards in different spots with the explosive gel at the same time. Yeah. That feels great. So how do you feel about detective vision?
It is too overbearing. I would hesitate because the moment it would happen, we would be complaining about it, but there should be, like, a time limit on it or something. There should be, like, a recharge.
Yeah, I think about something like Assassin's Creed did throughout their games, is they had the Eagle Vision, which was like the same thing, basically. But in Unity, the best one gameplay-wise, I'll stick to that, they made the Eagle Vision a pulse. And suddenly that's way more interesting. It's a pulse on a cooldown, so you have to actually memorize where dudes are and be a lot more cautious. It's not just, I have turned on Eagle Vision, I know where everyone is, and I have no fear about sneaking up on this guy, right? I think Asylum, compared to the other Arkham games, uses detective vision just enough because there's less things for the player to look out with using it. Whereas later entries are like, you need to use detective vision in order to see, like, mines on the ground or see properly what equipment goons are carrying and things like that. And yeah, you can just, like, look with your human eyes, but that gets into an issue of, well, the color palette is a little muddy, and sometimes the clarity is not clear. So you toggle to detective vision as a crutch.
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, people complain about, like, the radar in Metal Gear Solid. I don't think it's that big of a deal because I don't think this game needs to be, like, incredibly difficult. And the detective vision is nice because there's sometimes where visibility is difficult. And it is much appreciated. I wanted to complain, do a slight against it. It makes sense because it's a singular location. but there's just not enough variety. And instead of talking about the enemies here, I'll talk about the locations. Thankfully, they attempt to do quite a bit with what they do. You know, you go to the ruins, you can do a lot of plant life. There's a lot of cool moments too where you can like go into a corner and see a nice room or something. But it's not. It's all Asylum shit.
Why the fuck does Arkham have a greenhouse?
Yeah, well, poison.
Poison ivy is there.
Yeah, you need a poison ivy level. The warden knew that if you looked at the lore documents. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I get the lack of variety. Like, there's not a lot of like different visuals you're dealing with throughout the game. I guess I always came back to the game's pretty short.
Yeah,
all things considered, like it feels just rightly paced. Maybe I would cut one of the building retreads. I'm not sure which. I think that would be fine. Maybe I would cut Killer Croc ultimately, but then you wouldn't have like the scene that's imprinted in my mind where he's like, "I've got your scent, Batman." You know, and he's huge. He's fucking Sagat sized.
Yeah. All right, I think that's a good segue. What do you think about the story of this game?
The story is, it's really just like a showcase, right? Because again, before Arkham became a setting, like the Arkhamverse, this really did just feel like this is straight out of the pages of a comic. And so there's not really a whole lot of how to do with like introducing people. There's not really an arc Batman goes through, is there? Maybe a much more subtle one, but it's not a one unique to this specific Batman story. I guess. Go ahead. For me, it falls apart in the whole like Titan formula aspect, 100%. And that it feeds into the gameplay with the reused bosses.
Yep. Yeah, the whole Titan Bane thing, it is such a killer, especially since they're the primary gameplay mix-up. And it's like, oh, guess what? This boss, he's gonna dash at you, you throw a batarang, and then you jump out of the way. It's boring as fuck. Yeah. For sure. I'm
not even 10,000% on what Titan's, like, what was the purpose again? Like...
the Joker plan in this is kind of bad. I don't even fucking know. Basically, my thing is this is very video gamey. They did take slight inspiration from one of my favorite Batman stories, Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum: A Serious House on a Serious Earth. But that game is that comic is so heavily stylized and artistic. Yeah. This is much more of a commercial. This is very akin to like an Unreal Engine, which it is, like Xbox version of Batman the Animated Series. It's like serious Batman. And but that's what everyone wanted at the time. That is like the dream of 2009 Batman.
I think the Arkham games always threaded that needle pretty well of having your gritty, realistic aesthetic, but retaining a lot of the cartooniness of Batman as a concept. Like they never really dial back any of the villains from being like what they are. Yeah. Right? Like the Riddler's still a fucking doofus. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's not like I'm trying to think of like an equivalent. You know, like when like the MCU adopts like a C-tier colorful villain and they make him like a guy with a 5 o'clock shadow and a 1,000-yard stare with a statement about capitalism, but he also murders a child, you know? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I mean, really, the whole game is anchored by the vocal performances they have, and I don't think this game would have the legacy it did if they did not get Mark Hamill and... Oh my god, why am I fucking blanking?
Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy is my favorite Batman.
I'm a bigger fan than you, I guess.
I almost said fucking Kellyanne Conway.
Oh my god, Murph. Yeah, I agree. The vocal performances really, really make this. Because my one complaint about the visual aesthetic of this game is that Unreal Engine. Gordon's too buff. I said it. He's way too fucking buff. He's too jacked. He needs to get out of the gym.
I do buy that. I fucking hate the line when Batman's like, Gordon's smarter than he looks. It's like, dude.
That's so mean. Fuck
yeah,
Batman.
and then he has a traumatic flashback to when Gordon gave him comfort during his time of trauma as a child.
Let me highlight. Okay, so one of the other things that I think is smart about the story and its gameplay in terms of variety is it, and this is one of the reasons why it hooked a young Murphin and a young Brogan, is the Scarecrow shit. And it's all the little small diversions into seeing the larger universe. Like, there didn't need to be a Clayface in this game, but there is a Clayface in this game.
So cool.
And that's so nice.
And he turns into a weird bug-eyed man.
Yeah. And like, so having like the Scarecrow moments is like, this is what this villain can do to Batman, and it feels very diegetic where the player's inside these little nightmare scenarios. That is super fun. And I do think, like, looking back on it, it's very simple and like, oh, that's cute. But like it worked at the time.
It's 1,000% a thing of like, if you have never seen a video game do that before, it will blow your little mind. I remember thinking that the final Scarecrow sequence where it blue screens and the game starts over, I remember thinking, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen a video game do. This is so bold and daring.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then you get the post-death tip that's like, use the WASD buttons to move your head to avoid the Joker's gun.
We laugh back at it now, but it is well done, and it is good.
No,
again, the Batman games before this weren't doing it. They were not good enough, you know?
Yeah, like, it's just, they chose the villains so correctly, I feel like. When you look at, like, the rogues gallery for who they saved for City, it's like, no, that makes sense. The Penguin would have nothing to do in an Arkham Asylum story, you know? And Two-Face is better served being in City where he can control a courthouse.
Yep. 100%.
I'm thinking back, like, yeah, there's even Bane. Like, I rag on the Titan stuff, but when you see Bane, like, strung up like that, like, that's a cool reveal, because you see him on the detective vision first, and you're like, who's this man that's been crucified just off screen? And the reveal is like, oh, it's Bane, you know, and then he juices up, and that's like your first boss fight. That's cool.
The game is full of cool moments. It's like, it thrives on moments, and it knows that that's the important part to a fucking Batman game, is have cool shit in it. Like, the nice thing is every 5 minutes, something has happened to trigger dopamine in my brain. I just, like, kicked ass. Yeah. I just picked up a Riddler trophy. I just saw a cool cutscene. I got a new toy. Like, it's always something, and that makes it very brisk to go through.
The reactiveness of the NPCs, well, not necessarily the NPCs, let me rephrase that. The reactiveness of the villains, I guess, to what you're doing always felt really dynamic to me. Like when there's one segment where you sneak up on a goon and he's having a video call with the Joker. And you can sit and listen to them back and forth, or you can just, like, creep up on the dude. And if you do it while standing, Joker will call out, like, oh, there's Batman, he's right behind you, you know? And the goon only has, like, seconds to react. Or, you know, you take him out silently, and the Joker's like, hello, are you still there? Oh, must have blinked and Batman got you while I wasn't looking, you know? Like, it's like also with like Harley Quinn when you're solving puzzles around her and she's like commenting on the gear you pull out and like, where can I get me one of those? Man, I miss Arlene Sorkin.
Absolutely. I don't hate Tara Strong. I think Tara Strong's very talented, but she did not own the role. And also, like, there's been no one better than Arlene. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Tara Strong's just overused in video games for Harley Quinn specifically.
Oh, yes. And also, I will complain about Harley Quinn's design in this game. I think this was the start, Murph. I don't think there was a thing before this that was like this.
Yeah. I will cop to that. I have never liked her outfit in this game.
What? Wow.
It's
That's all
so
I gotta
busy.
say. She
you
got
were
her
saying
costume
it's the start
in
of something
Spirit
else.
Halloween, Murph.
Yeah. And she says, how do you like my new uniform?
Oh my gosh.
Sharpie's never been happier than ever. When we talk about like the Metroidvania aspect, I like in this game that you can just walk into buildings before you have like the proper way of getting into them.
Yes.
Like there's the bit where I think it's going into the archives, right? Where if you walk in through the front door, there's an electric gate and there's two goons and they just taunt you.
Yep.
And then you're supposed to head up through like the vent on the roof. Yep. You know? And there's just like moments like that scattered throughout the game where it really feels like the devs had like foresight into the player behavior, and give them a little extra content, you know, to do something with.
Oh yeah. It's a very playful game like that. And again, as you said, it's very brisk. I think the saving graces of this game are that it's brisk and competent. There's very little times where I was frustrated or perplexed by the game.
Yeah, for me the frustrating part has always kind of been the Poison Ivy boss fight.
Yeah.
Because I think they're trying to do a type of boss fight that this set of mechanics don't work well with.
Yeah.
And really, the Arkham series never had good bosses. Like, people will prop up Origins, but that's like, you know, Origins is doing a B grade, like, boss fight, and we deserve better.
Yeah, this is definitely just a franchise of that. Let me ask you this. I think my other problem with this game is there's not enough to level up. Leveling up is kind of mid in this game.
It's kind of an afterthought, yeah, because it's really just like, do you want to throw an extra Batarang, or do you want to deal a little more damage? You know, it's never really bugged me, and I've never really considered how else I would do a progression in this game if it had to have these RPG elements. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things I think I accept as is because the game's imprinted on my brain.
That makes sense. I mean, I don't hate this game. Again, I think this is better. This is better. It's that Mass Effect 1 thing of like, man, this just feels good. I don't even mind, Murph. This is a really good example of just like the difference between them. I think Batman Arkham Asylum suit is so good in this game that I don't need 50 skins. Like, I only need that Batman. Whereas, like, playing Knight or City, and City technically has the same skin, but, like, because of the color palette and because of the game, I'm like, let me switch what Batman looks like. I don't like how Batman looks. Whereas in this one, he just looks fucking good. I'm about to kick ass.
I've never been a fan of armored Batman.
No.
You know? Batman should be sleek.
Yes. Slender.
You know? I like the patient interviews. I like those as a collectible. I think that's one of my favorite, like, Arkham things that they brought back throughout the series, even though they had diminishing returns on who get interviews.
Yeah, and I like the Easter eggs in general. I think the Riddler stuff is good. This is the best Riddler stuff, in my opinion, as well.
Because this is before they had an idea of the Arkham verse and what is and isn't canon, or like what the continuity is. Because I forget which game is it, or which villain is it in City. Oh no, it's in Arkham Knight where it's like, oh, and we're gonna do the Man-Bat origin story, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas in this, Man-Bat's just like established theoretically, and when you go to like see his dossier, it's art from the comics, and it gives you a comic book bio of him. It really sells this idea of Arkham Asylum being this place where, yeah, all the freaks come to town, and you can do stuff like wander past the Riddler's cell, and he's painted it with a bunch of question marks, or there's Calendar Man's cell. Things like that, I think, really sold to people the idea of, like, this is a universe, and that, again, feeds into the something feels like Batman.
Yeah.
It just, like, you know, it's not just the power fantasy, it's also just, like, the accuracy, the atmosphere. Like, and I think its real saving grace is that it's as short as it is, because if this game was even, like, 30 minutes longer, it would feel that strain, because it doesn't have enough juice in the tank to carry that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they started leaning on their own created lore to propel the story.
Yeah. I wish that there was slightly more Predator missions. I feel like stealth is still not... The balance between brawler and stealth was not hit in this one. I will say the one thing I like about City is I think it rides that line better.
Yes. I will always say that my main issue, like, from the junkie angle, is that Asylum just didn't have, like, optimized stealth maps. But it was also the first time they were trying to make stealth for this kind of thing. It's like the combat. They got refined, and they got much better at it. I would never, ever knock, like, Arkham Knight for being, like, necessarily bad at any of the things it's trying to do.
Yeah. Because it's actually really impressive, especially, like, this developer didn't do much before this. And, like, as an outing, this is a very strong statement. This is probably one of the best licensed games ever. Yeah.
I mean, like, when you look into the development of it, it started as a rhythm game.
Yeah.
Like, you were to attack in time to the music, which is wild. And then they, like, got kind of carte blanche to make it however they wanted. You know, I could honestly see an alternate history version of this game where it's more like Asura's Wrath.
Yeah.
Where it's really just a series of, like, quick time events. Mm-hmm. Like, I could see that easily being done for this.
What's your favorite Riddler thing in this game?
My favorite Riddler challenge... You know... There's like two flavors of it, right? There's like the flavor where oh, that was a difficult, like, riddle to dwell on.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's also like the, wow, that was a deep cut. You're bringing up Humpty Dumpty. For me, honestly, the one that sticks in my brain is, how do you reflect on your successes and failures, Batman? And you scan a mirror.
Yeah. That's funny. That is
because
funny.
That's like the only one that's not a reference.
That's a riddle.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Riddler. And he's also like, what, you solved 20%. That was an easy one. I'm like, fuck you.
I do like the Arkham versus, like, petulant man-child version of the Riddler. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Riddler fan. I love that. I love that little twink. And in this game where he's just like, there's no way you could have solved it. You must have cheated. That is the only possible way. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Again, it just ties back to, like, the performances are really good. And I genuinely think if they weren't, if everything else was the same, but the voice acting was bad, not memorable at all. Because you can't do a fandom about it. And this game spawned a fandom.
I also wanted to highlight, and this is kind of an understated bit of the game, but it is really impressive from a technical standpoint, is Batman's cape. Batman's cape is so fucking good in this game. I think it's also probably the best. I don't know what they did in the later games, but his cape just looks so good in this, especially flying. There's still a little bit of clipping, especially with the wrist guards, But like in terms of motion, it just looks good.
Yeah. Like, I remember, like, booting it up, and one of the first things I did when I got full motion was I just kind of ran in a circle and, like, looked at the dynamism of the animations. It boggled the mind.
Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, I don't want to come off, like, too... Well, like, I say I don't want to, but I am. Too, like, nostalgia goggle about this game. But it really is so hard for me to separate, like, just the feeling of being young and playing Batman Arkham Asylum for the first time, you know? It's a core memory.
I think my lesson or my takeaway is that I would like these licensed games to be focused on a singular experience or adventure. What I like about this instead of a city is it's not necessarily because it's more focused, though it is. So like each individual thing feels more deliberately crafted, but it also feels more coherent as a story. Even though there's a lot of bullshit regarding the Titan formula, it is ultimately way less expansive and more direct and more effective than when you have a bajillion comic book characters in one story and you're trying to tell some epic saga.
Yeah. The pacing and storytelling of Asylum feels more like you're reading like a 5-issue story arc. 5 even feels like too many. Like 3 issues at most.
And this is meant to feel like, and I think you said it earlier, is like you never feel out of power here. This is meant to be Batman's bad day at work. Does that make sense? Whereas like it's fucking
it's his longest night.
Yeah, it's his longest night. And you feel it, and it's fun.
Yeah, like, I think if they had started, like, with the aspiration of doing City, or something on the scale of City, this game would have failed. Like, they wouldn't have been able to do it, because it needed that smaller experimental phase, because that's what this game kind of really is. It's an experiment. It's an extremely successful experiment, but that's what it is. And because they knocked it out of the park, then they could go on to do City and Night, and, you know, Origins can come to the party as well sometimes. Yeah, like, I think something like the Insomniac Spider-Man kind of came close, but even then, going back to our discussion here, I think they should have started smaller.
Yeah.
You know? Yep. And really, like, felt out the room. And then when you make the game twice as big in the sequel, that feels impressive. I think games are too big out the gate right now for games.
I agree.
Save that shit for the sequel.
Are we winding down, Murph?
What? Okay. You asked my favorite Riddler. What's your favorite Joker line?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember them off the top. I like the death quotes. We didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think any death quote is good.
Yeah. I think, because it's that Jack 1 thing of like, yeah, I lost, but I got a little content out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a little reward, a little nugget of them making fun of you.
I like that this game canonizes that the Joker's favorite TV show is Lost.
Good for him.
Do you think he had theories?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I mean, come on.
Harley, sit down. This is the episode where they're going to explain Jeff's tattoos.
Why did it all end in a church? Yeah, I like the Joker in this. By the way, did you ever play as Joker?
Didn't have a PS3, but you can mod it on PC. And that's one of the things, like, for years and years, I'm like, I never got to play as the Joker in Arkham, and I love games with multiple playable characters. And then you finally play it, and it's like, this is so underbaked.
Yes. I always think it's interesting that the other playable options for Batman in later games and this one are, like, worse Batman. So I enjoy it, because I'm like, yeah, Batman is a little too jacked here. Let's play as Nightwing and just, actually play a real game. You know what I mean? But, like, Joker's is funny because he has, like, a literal gun and he can just have a bullet.
Yeah.
And he can just murder somebody.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
I think, you know, like, IP as a whole, you need your Joker to be funny. The worst Jokers aren't funny. And something, Suicide Squad, you know.
I think something Suicide Squad is the perfect way to end this.
What are we? Something Suicide Squad?
Murph, where can we find us?
You can find us in your podcast feed. If you're not a subscriber already, why not? With such scintillating dialogue as something Suicide Squad. You know, if you subscribe, I guarantee we can fit in a something Suicide Squad every episode after this. But if podcasts aren't necessarily 1000% your thing, you can head over onto the Daydreamcast YouTube, where not only will you find video versions of these podcasts, but also additional supplemental material, such as Let's Plays of the classic Goof Troop game, Goof Troop, or Halo 3, or video essays on things like The Outer Wilds and Mega Man, and JoJo Bizarre Adventure tier lists. There's a lot to consume in your day-to-day.
Wow. That's a great advertisement, Murph.
I get better all the time.
We're playing out now, but you know what? I wanted to add to the Batman conversation real quick because it just came into my head. Oh no, I just lost it. Oh, fuck, what was it? It was about something. Oh no,